Welcome to Wisen Up. Are you planning to move to Canada? If your answer is yes, then you're at the right spot. I'm your host, Ruju. In this podcast series, we will discover inspirational stories, valuable resources, and tips that will make your moving to Canada journey easier, faster, and better. Thanks, Ron, and thanks, Jacqueline, for joining our Wisen Up podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Jackie, thank you so much for making time out to come and join us today as our guest. And it's like we were just touching base before we started, and then it's been just a year, just over a year since you landed in Canada. So the stories and the experience that you've had are closer to our 2020 compared to, say, people like Ruju and me who've come, say, 5 to 10 years before. So I think the big question that I ask all the guests that who actually come in for the podcast is, how did they come about making that choice? Why did they choose Canada over all the other options that's available?
We had visited Canada earlier, back in 2016.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
2016 we came over for a summer wedding, and that was my brother-in-law's wedding here. So that's when we saw the place, and our daughter was a year and a half at the time. So we liked the place, and we liked the infrastructure and how things were from the look of it. Everything is organized in a disciplined way. So and plus lots of nature to get close to. So yeah, so those were things which we liked, and we thought that would be a good environment for our daughter to grow up in. So that's where we thought we would give it a shot. We weren't really very active, and I remember when I reached out to you at that time to get a pulse check of how things are from the job point of view, because we had only seen it during a wedding season, right? So everything was really hunky-dory at the time, but we didn't really know how the job scene would be. So yeah, it has taken us a while. I think the from starting point of thinking about moving here to actually getting through the process and submitting documents and getting our COPR was over a period of 2 years. So we were really not very aggressive and very passionate, I would say. We weren't passionate about moving here, but we were just trying to give it a shot because we knew that we aren't really the prime age group for moving here. So yeah, we had that as a disadvantage for us. So we were taking it slow and just trying to get it in our stride.
So before the summer wedding of 2016, you did not have the faintest idea of wanting to move out of India,
no.
And you were okay.
It was something which would be nice to have, but if someone would just put it on a platter and give it to us, it would be so nice. That's how it was. We weren't going to do anything about it. Both of us, my husband and I, both of us are pretty laid back that way.
Okay, and so you came in for the summer wedding. You liked the place, and then was there any specific reason? Like, did you go back? I mean, you obviously talked about it, but it's was it the fact that you already had family? You said your brother-in-law or sister
that was a big factor. Yeah,
right, so you already had family here.
So my brother-in-law is in US. He was just getting married in Canada. So, but his family, and I have a lot of my relatives here who've been settled here for a while. So we knew of the place, and we knew of the terrible winters that come every winter. But we knew that if anything, we would have some support system, and that has been a bit of a psychological safety for us when we were looking at coming here without any job and then searching for it. So yeah, having relatives was a plus point.
So the comfort of having a support system, some
Yes.
relatives, cousins, and the fact that you got to experience it before you had to make that choice.
Yes.
Did the fact that you have a little girl or her the future of next generation play into it, or were you looking for more less number of hours at work and more work-life balance? Was there any other primary motive to move out of India and the home country?
I think another thing was the education system, because like I mentioned to you, we are both laid back, and we did not want our daughter to spend her childhood, studying
Right.
for
The
competitions
competition.
and
Right.
Olympiads
Yes.
and the medical entrance, the engineering entrance, everything leads up to that. I mean, one of the three streams, right? So
Right.
that way, I mean, we hadn't seen that when we came and visited, but we did know that, things are way more relaxed over here, and the education system is all the same, at least in the primary years, for all the kids. So that was an added incentive, because we were looking at some kind of social interaction for a daughter. Being an only child, she may tend to get a little closed up and quiet, and we thought it would be good that she would learn some of the ways which only another kid can give, an adult cannot give. So the education system was something which we were also
Another reason.
pulled towards. Yeah.
That's awesome. Ruju, you had a question?
Yes, I had a question around the immigration process. How was it like, Jacqueline? Was it hard or easy? How did you find it?
Oh, for us, it was, like I said, it took us, I mean, it not because the process was tedious, but it took us 2 years because we were doing it really slowly and one step at a time. It did take a little bit of time for us to research, but I think, and that's what both my husband and I, we tell to anyone who is looking for moving or applying for it, is that you don't really need agents or agencies or organizations to help you with immigration, unless obviously you don't have the points and you have to do something and they give you some tips. But the entire process is pretty straightforward. Whatever is given on the website is it,
Right.
So if you just follow it to the T, it's relatively very easy. Like we did go to Y-Access, one of the immigration agencies, for consultation, and that's where I think we kind of got steered towards Canada, because we were looking at Australia and Canada, and whichever would make it easier for us to move if in case the weather was a big pull for Australia. So we were okay with it if the job market was okay. And then they said, see, Canada is much more easier. And when we did start with the process, we were a little overwhelmed because there were a lot of steps to follow. But now, having gone through it, it's actually not really very difficult. You just have to, make sure that you've finished everything, your IELTS to your education certification to your everything. And you just fill the form and do it. So we had quite a lot of other friends and groups, like the groups on Telegram. You have focus groups on the IRCC website itself, which have actually all the questions answered that you can have about your own special cases. So all reading up and kind of referring to those was pretty good for us to kind of just get on and get moving with the process. So I think
Awesome.
it was
That's a great insight. Great insight. Thank you.
And I think the fact, I mean, I haven't heard about the Telegram groups. I've heard about the Facebook groups, but it's an interesting point that those people who are on Telegram, you have the Telegram. And I heard there are WhatsApp groups too that, ask these questions.
They may
And
not be
when
as
you-
big. The Telegram groups are
Okay.
much bigger. I mean, they have like people who would tell you about how to kind of get money or investment and legal everything.
Okay. So then the $1 million question that everybody asks is, and especially when you've got 10, 15 years of experience in another country and then you're moving here, it's like, how was the job search process for you, and what did you do differently, or what worked for you and what worked for your husband?
So actually, we are not probably the ideal age bracket to be coming here. One, because of the age, which kind of affects the scoring. And the second is because of the experience that comes with the age. So we are at that midpoint level, right? Where we are far too experienced to be going back and start all the way. And we are at a level probably where people won't be really sure of what kind of experience we have if we don't have that in Canada. So I thought it would be a bit of disadvantage for us, and we were prepared for that. So one, I think what helped us was that we had a cutoff. First thing was, we'll give ourselves 5 to 6 months. We had a support system, so we landed and stayed over at a relative's place. So that was a big cushion for us financially. And the fact that we gave ourselves 5, 6 months, we said, always have a plan B, so that you don't get really desperate or frustrated. in the process. So we knew that, okay, if we go back, what are the chances that both of us will, or at least one of us will get money, get our jobs back? And that again would take 5-6 months to get any kind of job back into the scene. So would we have financial cushion to kind of tide through those 5-6 months? And if you are living here, even though you're living with the relatives, those 5-6 months, again, there are some expenses, the stuff that,
Right.
you will spend on. So if those 5-6 months, you don't get a job, you're okay to go back to India or not. So this is not one all be all, so that you don't really just, like for us, we knew that we probably, with the experience, may not be able to go back and say work in a Tim Hortons or a KFC or something. We would still look for something which would still be in our stream. So having that backup was like, worst case, well, we'll go back. So things are not so bad. We weren't really desperate to make it or break it here. So that was the first thing which we kind of sorted when we decided to land here. And after that, we were a little clueless, I must admit, because clueless in the sense that everyone said you won't really get a job in 4-5 months, so you have to mentally prepare yourself for, so the 6 months that you're giving yourself also may not be sufficient. So before we could even get into the whole rigor of, what our resumes should look like, where are the right places where you should look for the jobs, it took us some time to kind of, because I know there are a lot of these immigration support organizations that help with information, but that's mostly to do with the landing. And they do a good job of, some of the job fairs. If you go and attend, they always have these organizations that kind of check your resume for free and help you out with some tips and get you. So that was pretty helpful, I would say. At least if nothing, you can kind of get a feeling that there's some kind of structure in place to help you with that. My husband's approach and my approach was slightly different. Maybe because I was in the first few months just enjoying and relaxing my break after the 15 years of work that we've been having. And my husband was more focused. So I was enjoying sending my daughter to school and picking her up, which I had never been able to do. So all of that I was, and it was peak summer. So the weather was really, really, in our favor to kind of just relax and enjoy. What I did, I'll explain for my area first, is that I think I went to a few immigration or job agencies that were like, you have access, you have job skills, you have a few. I went to TCET. And that's again because I came to know they were there in job fairs helping out with checking our resumes. And I kind of enrolled with them. And they have a few extra, I would say, personalized services that they offer. And I got a counselor, I would say counselor, or I don't know exactly what her role was termed as, but they have these people who kind of take on one candidate and then focus on what the resume should focus on based on the jobs, help in kind of fine tuning that. And, so if you're applying for a job, you need a second pair of eyes, right? And someone who probably has seen a lot of resumes in that area would be able to probably give you a good feedback. So that was good. I got like a more focused feedback on that. And I would visit her. She would help out with the interview tips. If I was going for an interview, what is it that would work? And, whether should you focus on what country you worked in or just focus on the role? All those questions that you have, but you don't know who to ask, you can ask this person. And they have something called as a pretty interesting role, some kind of like a job coordinator or something. And that person actually interacts with the industry. So the people that they interact with and they tell that this kind of job they have, they come back to TCET and then reach out to all these counselors and ask if they have any candidate who's looking for a job in the similar role, especially in IT or those kind of jobs. So that industry interaction, the interface coordinator takes a session and then tells that these are the places you look for jobs. And I have these kind of roles, which I came to know from my contacts, and they're looking for candidates. Why don't you, just get your resume fine-tuned with the counselor and send it across to me? So it didn't work for me, but I think it's something which was a pretty, good one more step towards getting a more focused approach to job hunt. So yeah, these two were pretty impressive for me, and I'm sure it has worked for a few people. I was really interested and I would attend that. But most of the times it was only online search, the Indeed and Glassdoors and LinkedIn. And inviting people for coffees. That's what we had heard. So we thought we'll just reach out to people and just ask them if they could share a few things about how the Canadian labor force works, or how the industry is, or say in terms of ID industry or HR's role in, other areas. So we were told to kind of see if coffee chats work. So
now it's only virtual, right?
Now it's all virtual. Yeah, I'm sure the coffee would be all over the screen. Yeah. So these are what I did.
Did people say yes to the coffee chats? Did you manage to get a yes?
In my case, no. In my case, not really. But I do have, once I joined Canadian Tire, I had a colleague who told me that he got the job because he invited the HR for coffee, and then things just clicked from there.
So a couple of follow-up questions. So the TCET organization was this in the Brampton location?
Yes, they have a branch in Brampton, but I think they're all over. Yeah.
No, but the one you went to, you had to go to the actual physical location to meet the career counselor, and then she gave you tips for the interviews, and then they actually gave you leads. So how many interviews do you think you actually went to before you actually landed the job at Canadian?
I didn't. In my entire job search, I probably attended only 2 interviews. The second one got me the job. But when I was going through the first interview, that's around the time when I was with the counselor, and kind of she would guide me, and she would say it's a good thing, when to send a follow-up thank you mail, and when to actually do the follow-up. So all of that in terms of the right time and right approach, she helped me with the first interview, and obviously she was there when I did the second interview.
And the second interview, the Canadian Tire, did you get it through this organization, or was it an online search?
No, all of them were searches from the websites and job posts. So yeah.
2 other questions I had. You mentioned the Telegram group. In Telegram, is there like a specific way we search these groups? Like in WhatsApp, someone has to send you a link. So is that how it works in Telegram? I mean,
same. It's the same thing. You have to get the Telegram link, and you're just there.
And so someone has to invite you or send you the link. But there's no way I can search on it or ask. So how did you find the link?
I had, when we started opening up about the process of applying, we were pretty open about it, and we were sharing it with quite a few friends. And then that's how we came to know that a lot of other friends were also applying. So we just kind of gathered all our intelligence and shared whatever has worked for us. So I had an ex-colleague who was applying, and I had a few questions, and he said, maybe you may get the answers. And the best part is that in Telegram, you just go and search, and you get all the historical information, even if you've joined later. So that was good.
And what was the cutoff score when you applied for that? Was it 470, 460, 450?
Oh, no, it was much lower because our scores weren't really high. We were at 443. So back in 2018, 19 we landed. 2018 is when we got the invite, ITA, interest to apply. So that was in the summer of 2018. And
the summer of 2018, okay.
2018. So that's when our cutoff was much lower. And then by the time, I think, it's just that I think after that, the numbers haven't gone as low.
So it was around 440, I'm guessing, because right now, in the last draw I heard, it was like 469. They've dropped it a point, but somewhere around 440 at that point. I mean, this is important information because there are still a lot of people in our age group with about 15 years of work experience still trying to figure out whether they want to move to Canada or not. And they seem to be hovering around that 430, 440 mark. And that's the challenge of having to move here after we've got that experience. Ruju, you had a question that you wanted to ask?
Yes, but before that, I just wanted to say, Jacqueline, that it's super impressive that, you cracked the interview. Like that was just your second interview and you got the job. That is actually brilliant because you're one of those few lucky people who just give 2 interviews and you just landed in 2019. And that's really impressive. So well done there. The question I had for you was, what inputs would you provide to our listeners who are, planning to or considering moving to Canada?
I think first is figure out if you have, what is your priority? Because every country has its pros and cons. What is the big draw? Is it because everyone is going to Canada? Or is it because, you're looking for a better life? In what aspect? There are a lot of things you have to do on your own. If you're the types who is just fine with, the way things are structured here and living I would say comfortable life without a very high ambition of just wanting to go everywhere and doing things at a pace which probably happens in India. It's a good country to live over here. But I know that there are a lot of people who are resourceful, enterprising, and a lot of those things probably may not really apply over here because you still have policies, processes, and rules to follow for every kind of application you do. So everything is pretty standardized. So what kind of a person you are and what is it that you're looking for from this country, that should be very clear. And once that is clear, I think it's important that you figure out if you can find any support system to kind of help you tide through the first year. Because without a support system, I know I've been told that the winter can get really depressing and grilling. And people do resort to kind of, let me just do any job while I look for my, job in my area. And I'm not really sure if that is something which works for them, but I personally would rather stay focused. And for me to stay focused, I would need some kind of, support in the environment so that I can kind of continue without having to worry about how long will I last. Right. So having a support system, it can be friends with whom you can stay, or it could be just some people, contacts that who could give you some kind of idea about how the whole thing works.
Awesome. Thank you.
So Jacqueline, you mentioned about the tools and the organizations that helped you in the job search. We talked about TCET, we talked about LinkedIn, Indeed, we talked about Glassdoor.
Oh yes.
Was there any other organizations or classes or tools that actually helped you settle down, find a place to stay? Like how, the day-to-day activities that people need to do when they're trying to settle down in the first 6 months?
Yeah, so there are a lot of immigration. I'm sure we reached out to quite a few, and all of them insist that you register only with them because then you are abusing the system by reaching out to many of them. So I was kind of going from one to the other, but one at a time. But with that, based on my need, I did reach out to quite a few different immigration support centers. Another was Job Skills. So Job Skills had an online bridge to HR a certification course. And it kind of at the end of 6 months or 3 months, it gives you a certificate. It's an online one, so it was convenient for me. I knew people were talking about getting certified and how certification is so important over here. And for me, HRPA was like a serious business. And before I could move to HRPA, I wanted to kind of get an understanding of how payroll works, or what are the processes, or what is different about the compensation in Canada compared to in India and all of that. So just to get a very bird's eye view of each of the functions of HR from theory point of view, I enrolled for this Bridge to HR course with Job Skills. And it was virtual, so I didn't have to travel anywhere. And every day I could just, log into the webinar and just take the sessions, and the group discussions and focus groups and all were really helpful. So that was one. And I also know that I think it was TCET itself, but I do know that there are one or two other organizations that help with the immigration. Say if you are moving into a place and you're looking for furniture, they have a furniture allowance if you apply for it. So they kind of have all these moving furniture which comes, and if you apply what kind of furniture you need, they can actually get you for free with only the shipping, not the shipping, but say the moving of the furniture. So that I thought was a really good concept, at least for people who are settling out. Yeah, that was really interesting. And that again, the thing is, they don't give it to you in a pamphlet with a list of all the things. It's like you tell your need what it is, and then they will be able to guide you.
Right.
And this I just happened to kind of know by chance from the reception, and the lady was very helpful in telling if you are moving furniture, or if you need some kind of accreditation in terms of a lawyer or certifying any kind of document. If you're getting relatives or something like that, all of that can be done for free at the center. So those are things which kind of reduce the hassle for you, because you really are clueless where to go and whom to contact if you want, say, any kind of document to be, attested. So yeah, all these agencies have some form or the other. In fact, my first income tax filing that I did it for free with one of the immigration agencies because they give it to you for free. They help you with the filing for free. So again,
Wow.
there are a lot of things that they do. It's just that somehow you have to kind of ask and find out and look around.
Okay, that's awesome.
Nice.
And the happy news is we've reached November, we finished the American Thanksgiving, and you actually successfully moved into a new house. So congratulations, Jackie.
Thanks.
How does it feel to be in the new house? How does it feel to finally move in and all within the span of 1 year, and you being able to actually get a house and move in? How does it feel? And how was the process? How was the house search process? And how did you decide?
We weren't mentally prepared to move it. It was a little too quick for us because we weren't really unhappy with our place. We were really in a convenient place right across the school and my husband's office. So this definitely was something which was unplanned. But once we got a hang of the idea that, okay, I mean, it is possible that we can own a house. And the common understanding is you are paying your rent month on month. If you pay the same rent amount to any mortgage lender, that house, it's like that money is actually helping you own the house over the years. So why pay rent in some other place when you can actually pay that same money for your own house mortgage? So that was the biggest incentive for us to look for a place, because we had been living in this condo for a year. And the process has I don't know how it normally goes. So it's been quick. It's been quick. Okay. I don't have a reference point to kind of compare it with, but what we started with and what we ended up choosing were quite different. We were looking at places, which we thought were good enough and expensive. The interest rate, I think, was a big factor as well, because interest rates right now are really, really low. We thought we have a certain saving with which we can kind of look at the down payment, being the first time home buyers. But that's a little tricky because you have to consider at least 10% extra that would kind of, go in other expenses and miscellaneous things, which are not over the period. It's all within the time that you close the house. So we weren't aware of that aspect. We thought, okay, so if we tell the realtors that this is the money that we can spend, and they can calculate and get you what kind of houses you could look at and what is the value that you should be aiming at. That's not true. I mean, it will always be 10% more than that you would end up shelling out.
So you're talking about the legal fees and the registration fees, the
registration, legal, that, but it's a chunk. I mean, it's still kind of, because the CMHC is getting added, because you're a first-time buyer, the 20% that you let go is still in a way compensating for the money that you can afford.
So you put 5% down or 10%? How much did you put down?
So 6.6, it was 6.7, something around that.
Okay. And the interest rate right now is what, 2% or 1.7? Where are we at?
It's at 1.6, 1.5. Yeah. I mean, we also heard it was 1.37 somewhere. So yeah.
And how many houses did you see before you finally finalized this place?
Oh, I've lost count.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we saw many.
So was it all in the Scarborough area, or did you go out to like Waterloo and Hamilton and then Whitby and
we knew that at some point Rahul will have to go back to work, and he's with Elections Ontario, so they will definitely have a office commute to kind of resume once the lockdown ends. So we didn't want to go really very far, or even if it was far, it has to be something which is at least well connected. We did consider, looking at properties in Brampton and all, because with the same price, you would get a much newer, better, bigger house in Brampton. So that's where we had our relatives, and that's where we had landed. So we were thinking, if in case there were options, we would not mind considering. But at the time, I think because it was the housing market, which was at its peak, there were a lot of houses for us to view. We didn't have to go outside of Scarborough.
So was it because of the pandemic that you decided that, okay, now is a good time to go ahead and get it? Or was it because of the fact that you realized you're paying rent for almost a year, and now for the second year onwards, you might as well save?
So
is it a
it's
combination?
the rent as well as the interest rates. I mean,
Oh, the interest rates, yeah.
we had our friends who were just, over a cup of drinks were just sharing with us, oh, the interest rates are 1.6. It's never been this low. Why don't you consider this? Why are you paying rent? And then we're like,
Right.
okay, let's just browse and see some options. And then we reached out to, I think, one of the postings, and that happened to be with the representative from Royal LePage, I think. And that's when they came in, and, from there on, it was just them showing us around, and they took it upon themselves that they will get us a house, even though we weren't ready.
Who, the agent?
Yeah, the realtors, yeah.
So when did you start? Was this in this year, 2020, like by about April, May? Is that when you started?
No, this was in August, maybe. Yeah, sometime in mid-August, August. And we had already finalized this place by September.
Okay, so it was
September
1 month of search. So that means so every day, because the open houses are usually on Sundays and Saturdays, right? The open. But were you seeing houses during the week also? Like after work, you were going and checking?
Yes, we started off with I think 1 or 2 properties that had open house, but there were quite a few. I mean, it's like we won't. I mean, we have to like the place for us to kind of wait for the open house.
Gotcha.
And
Right.
there were some factors for us. We did know that we would need to mortgage a place, which would help us kind of pay our mortgage every month as well. So we were looking at a basement that we could rent out.
Okay.
So with that, we were looking at a livable basement. If I can live in it, I would be able to advertise and get people to live in it. So that being a factor, we were probably a little careful in the search. So we were looking at it from that point of view as well. So we looked at townhouses, detached. We looked at all possible combinations except for maybe condos and apartments.
But that's pretty fast. Like from August, like you started in August, September, and usually takes 60 days to close, right? Once you put the payment in, it takes, was it 30 days closing or 60 days closing?
60 days. 60 days. So we finalized this in September, and we got the closing on mid-November, which was last week.
And the search was only August. Search was only August and September. That's it. Like mid-August and September.
Yeah.
Okay, again, I think the one line that captures your life in Canada is everything just falls in place. Like you're extremely lucky. What do you think, Raju?
I was thinking the same thing. I wanted to ask her a question: that were you always been this lucky, or it changed after you came to Canada?
I think maybe we don't really have very high expectations as well, so we just go with the flow, and so far the flow has been
very nice
in our tide. Yeah,
very nice.
I mean, you guys have like the PhD in going with the flow. People should learn how to go with the flow.
Exactly.
You guys should take classes online. I would buy that class because there's nobody. I've been talking to new immigrants for like 10, 15 years. This is the first time I'm hearing somebody so casually and easily buy a house in 2 months. Like people stress out about it for years.
Right.
Like it took me almost 7-8 years of research. But when finally I decided to because I kept moving to different cities, Waterloo, Hamilton, Toronto. But when it was time for me to buy, it still took me 3 months to move into the place, right? And then this is for someone who lived there for so long. And here comes somebody who landed in 2019, and then she just walked and just coolly walks into a house that also has a basement attached. That's a brilliant move. That's like a pro move. That's like a professional move, right? Yes,
that's all credit to my husband. He is from the banking field, right? So he knows what's the safest risk to take.
And this is like things that people have to buy like 2 or 3 houses before they realize, oh, okay, let's get a one which has a basement in. Like usually the first home, they tend to like stay away from that. But this is absolutely brilliant. I'm so proud and so happy that such a beautiful story of someone who moved in and in place. And so is the school close for the little one for your daughter? Is it close from home?
Yeah,
is the same school that you're going?
Oh no, this is not the same school. Unfortunately, we had to kind of move her, but there are 3 or 4 schools around the same area, and there are, I think, a few senior schools and all. So that was really good factor for us to choose this place.
So this house is around what, 600, 800? Is it around 800, 600?
It's below 800. It's 760.
Okay. And the basement is 2 bedrooms? Or
Yeah.
the basement?
It's 2 bedroom, separate entrance.
So you should be getting at least 1,500, maybe 1,000 to 1,500.
Maybe on a normal day, but I think with the lockdown and stuff, this area is actually pretty close to 3 universities. So there are usually more students, and because of the classes being virtual, there aren't as many students as well, right? So we are only looking at some families that could move, and so I'm not really sure. We aren't really very hopeful that the price will be the same as what it would normally get you, but somewhere which could just kind of help us with our mortgage. So,
how far is it from the Scarborough Town Centre?
Oh, from Scarborough Town Centre, it would still be like a 10-minute drive, 10-15 minutes drive.
Okay. So I recommend posting it on all the new immigrant Facebook groups, because every day there's a new immigrant family coming in looking for a place to stay. And generally, people are a little averse to give it to new immigrants because they ask you for credit history. You know what you call.
Yes, we had the same experience. Yeah,
and they usually spend a huge amount of money staying in an Airbnb for the first couple of months, the first week, and then they start searching for houses. So and they will be willing to pay that amount of money because they're getting a 2-bedroom basement apartment, right? So that's a good market to look at.
We were looking at that. I think we did post it. My husband, he posted it on the Facebook group. And the thing is, people were saying that there aren't many immigrants that are moving in because of the lockdown and all the restrictions. So that is not really a very, very, moving crowd from that point of view. But then, we did post it.
It'll take maybe till January right now because again, the second lockdown has happened and stuff like that.
So,
but
correct.
But Scarborough is definitely very immigrant friendly, especially when you look at the desi outlets, the food, the grocery stores.
We love it.
So it's definitely a great place for immigrants. And I think it's just a matter of I'm a member of about 15 Facebook groups for new immigrants. And I see every other day a question, okay, we are moving here, we're looking for a roommate. We're looking for a new apartment. Our lease is up, so we want to move to another location. And so there's a lot of movement happening. I'm sure. I'm not worried about it by now because by your track record, everything just falls into place. So I'm very sure that you find somebody just walking in, just knocking. Excuse me, is your basement available? Oh yes, please come. We were waiting for you.
Without even knowing.
So I'm pretty sure something like that's going to happen. So thank you so much for your time, Jackie. It was a great pleasure talking to you and learning your story. Riju, did you have any other questions that you wanted to ask?
No, not any other questions. I think, Jacqueline, you answered almost all the questions, the questions that listeners might have in their mind. But these are all the great insights. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today.
Thank you for having me over. And I'll be glad if, it can help anyone with any information about their job search or immigration.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Have a great weekend. Take care.
Thank you. You all too. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye. I hope you found this podcast useful. Why don't you tell us any specific questions you have about immigration in the comment section below? If you are an immigrant and would like to share your story with us, please email us at wiseenougpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, listeners. I'm your host, Ruju, and this is the Wise Enough podcast series.